The process will be as this. I will go through the slides, and then I will ask Mr. Paul to speak on his experience. And then I come back again to talk about my experience. And then we have Mrs. Leah Casimero to speak on her experience. Afterwards, we will finish, and then the floor is open to ask questions. So we try to answer your questions, no? With the help of Dr. Ilona and Dr. Nicola Richards. Of course, they're here to rebut and guide us on some terms, you know, if somebody is to ask some questions on medical or any clinical definition, which I will not be able to answer. So this is how it will go. We all know that COVID-19, yes.
You will just signal to me when to change slides.
Okay. So this presentation is not to teach you or to do anything. It is just sharing our experience here. And we would like to share with everyone, the team here. There is the three of us here, but there are also Wapichan people on the chat group who is not present here, I think. They also is part of the team. And also, I also call the team of, you know, some people who we would consult on subjects, you know, on words that we don't know. So the first thing I want to share, or the challenge I want to share with you, is the Wapichan structure and the English structure. You know, the English has a specific structure, you know. You have the verb, you have the subject and the object. And in the English, the adjective comes before the nouns, no? This is basic grammar. And thankfully, that the Wapichan structure is almost the same thing, like English grammar structure. We have adjective coming before the nouns. So anyone who is versed or who is literate in English grammar can easily read Wapichan. You know that this is the structure. This is how the structure is, no? And the other challenge I want to point out here is many of the PSAs that come to us to translate sometimes are passive. You know, there are many passive third person pronouns and they speak in third person. And Wapichan is not that. Wapichan language is active almost in the first, second, and the third person plural, no? So that makes it quite difficult to translate like directly from English to Wapichan. So we have to personalize our translation. So Wapichan is personalized active language. So I have a question for you here is, what is the structure of your language? You know, it's not for you to answer, but it's for you to think about. Next slide, please. The previous slide. The other challenge we have is the idioms and the figure of speech and sarcasm. Now we can talk many things about here, but I want to focus on the PSAs that was sent to us. First of all, I think from our experience, we realize that the translators need to know the English culture or the Guyanese culture the second, and the Wapichan culture, they need to be familiar with it. You need to born or live among these people. The culture you need to be familiar with. And if you can remember, Ms. Charlene, the conversational translation that was sent to us, there was something that says, the straw that break the camel's back. If you translate that into Wapichan, makes no sense. So sometimes we leave it. I cannot remember if we submit that kind of yeah, PSA, which is supposed to be on the radio. But when you see something like this, if a Wapichan person is not versed in the English idioms or expression, will not be able, might translate this directly, which have no meaning at all in the Wapichan ears. On the other challenge too, we have compound words. Of course, we know what is compound words here. For example, airport in Aishalton, we have airstrip. And if you translate airstrip as in from English to Wapichan, you might want to know if there is a strip of the air or something, but you know, it's not the same. I just pointing out these little things that I think you are also familiar with, but I just want to make visible or to know that we have in this kind of problem or challenge. And the other one is the missing names. The last, I think also was the PSAs that was sent to us about Auntie Pam and her son or grandson. There was a slang or an expression in the Guyanese language, what they call backyard hang. So, well, I'm exposed to Guyanese language, Guyanese culture, the mainstream culture then. I'm speaking about the coastland, no? The coastland culture. So I understand what is backyard hang. Now, if you bring that to the Wapichan villages or Wapichan thinking, you know, there's no such thing as a backyard hang, you know. We don't have fences. Well, now we have some fences now. But majority, you know, you have a huge backyard, and sometimes you live in, for example, in my parents, you know, they have grandmother, your aunt, your uncles live in one huge hill. So your backyard would be their front. So that kind of meaning, it doesn't make sense. I just pointing this out to the people who send these PSAs, no? And the other one is a two-word verbs. The last translation that we submitted has these examples, no? Show up, the virus showing up, or the virus show up. And the other one is fight it off. You know, these are the challenges that the translators have to face. It is not the same in Wapichan. And the other one is the two-word nouns. The last PSAs that we translated has like fighter cells. You know, that's quite a challenge to us too. Can you imagine if this like the verb and the noun and the missing names, the compound words are given as a translators a challenge? We don't want to go into like the English sarcasm or the other idioms, no? Quite difficult. And that gives Wapichan translators a lot of challenge to think and to burst their head, to brainstorm, which takes up a lot of time. Next slide, please. The other one is we realize too that we are not medical people. And I'm happy that Dr. Ilona Spencer and Dr. Nicola Richards is here. And I also heard medics, Akeem Henry is here. And if they were if they were the indigenous translators, and we wish we had a person like that, it would be easy for them to think that what an indigenous word is used for example, virus or infection or spreading, you know, because that you have a medical background. Unfortunately, Wapichan translators, you know, we can say we are linguists, but not medical expert. And I don't know how many, well, I heard that Akim is here. How many are more are medical, who have a medical training background, who can really reach to people in their language, what really reach to their people, what really they want to say or what message they are really given from that background, no? And here, what make Wapichan team or the work that comes out of the Wapichan team, of the quality that comes out, I want to say it is a divergent thinking, you may have it another word for it. But what it really is, I want to share with you that we have a variety of experience here. We have Brother Ian, Mr. Ian Paul here, who has years of experience in translating the Wapichan Bible. He has gone to training. You know something? He has seen the sun and drink the water in Rupununi long before I was born. So I cannot say I have more vocabulary than him. I cannot say that despite my training, or even if I went to university to do a PhD, let's say in linguistics something, I cannot replace that experience he has. I would never. So that is the experience he has, he has seen his grandparents. He brought the language with him and he is here to share with us. So I'm thankful. And then you have me. I just want to share a little bit about me, how this team bring in experience and quality that, as I said, I born also in Wapichan family. I think Wapichan, I eat Wapichan, I do everything Wapichan. And then I have that experience of the coastal mainstream culture. I have it in there. So a little bit about English, the Guyanese English, I understand. I know how they think. I know expressions of certain expressions when they say it, no? And the other one, the other background is my professional training, the professional background I bring in. And I want to share with you that the people who had translated the UN environment something, that there are many technical terms there that I was able to contribute. For example, um, words like energy or words like power, and then energy sources. Some terms that we Wapichan people typically don't speak about, no? We don't speak about this. This is not a everyday language. However, because of my professional background of engineering, I know, and then the Spanish, and then the Spanish comes in. Most of these technical or the medical terms are Latin. They have Latin roots. So instead of translating it English then to Wapichan, I can think right away from the Spanish to the Wapichan. So I can just relate it to Wapichan quickly, right away. And then it makes things easier. And then, we debate or we talk about it with the team here. And then we have someone like Leah, someone who has, you heard her speaking to the public, but that's a different professional realm. When you speak to the public, you need to meet everyone, or not just old people or from teenagers. No, you meet the whole spectrum of people. And speaking to them also requires training. And she will speak about it too. So this is the kind of team we have. We have a pool of talents here, not just translators. So when it comes together, we come with a work that is so good. And in it here, it's part of the challenge too. I have a here of gender voice. Now, in Wapichan culture, the message that goes to the people needs to know who is sending the message. Is it a male or female? And how would the male audience receive a female speaking to them? So vice versa, how would a male speaker message received by a female audience? So that is quite important. And this is the work, or this is the area that Leah brings in. Or she said, no, you speak you need to speak to, I'm a female, and then as a female, I need to know, do I make sense talking to male audience? And do I make sense talking to female audience? So things like this. So in translating, the public announcement is to the Wapichan people. So we need to know who we are speaking to. And I speak about the training and experience there already. So that is what I call divergent thinking. I just wanted to say that imagine we are all linguists in a room, 3 of us here. Whatever idea we have, it will be the same because we would have the same training, the same school of thought would be there. However, because the 3 of us have a diverse background, we have, we can bounce back ideas. And I think these days people call it thinking outside the box. So right away, we don't need to think outside the box. All the team is already thinking outside the box because first and foremost, we are not linguists. So we are already thinking outside the box. Next slide, please. And this is well, I talked about the divergent thinking already, sorry. One more thing here is the spectrum of language comfort. Well, we have a linguist here. So what we really mean here is, like, for example, Mr. Ian Paul, he is good in Wapichan. He speaks in Wap, he lives with it, he speaks to his family in Wapichan. And then he is 70 years old, and you've been speaking Wapichan from when you just 2, 1, you hear Wapichan, and you have this whole 70 years of experience of language, and he's comfortable speaking in Wapichan. He expressed himself in Wapichan first and foremost, and better, he articulates himself better in Wapichan. And then you have me, who is younger than him, with less experience in Wapichan language and culture, and then you have that background of going to high school, you're exposed to maybe university level language, English language. And then, as I said, I bring in the other foreign language, little bit of Portuguese and Spanish. But you see, however, my Wapichan level is not the same with Mr. Ian Paul. On my English too, you can hear me how I speak English. I'm not an English speaker. English is not my first language. You hear how I talk. You hear how I articulate myself in English. You wouldn't agree that you can bring me to public speak, because in English is not my language. So you kind of find in a little bit of Wapichan, and then you have a little bit of English, going up in that spectrum. And then you have Leah, okay? When Leah speaks, she's Wapichan, she's born in Wapichan family, grow in Wapichan family also, and she's the youngest person of the group, of the team, sorry. And of course you have the age gap, or the generational gap is there. She thinks like young people. What is young people thinking? This is what young people is. So that generational gap is being, she has a link then with the generational gap. Of course, you hear her speak. She's a radio announcer. She speaks on the radio. So that level of comfort, that level of language is there too. So you have more of English, the English language is there going. So that's why I talk about the spectrum of language comfort. You have it. Next, please. Now, I just want to share some of the challenges here. I was just talking about quality. What I think is quality. We have a teamwork, which brings out quality work. And I also talk about the spectrum of language, also adding up to the quality. And here we have expense. Most times I find that, Ms. Charlene, we need to do this translation very fast, or else, and so time is limited. Time is limited here. All 3 of the Wapichan team here are full-time working somewhere, They are full-time workers then, 8 hours people. Saturdays, they have to wash their clothes and, you know, maintain home, everything they have to do it. So translation takes place only in our free time. That is if we are willing to. That is if we are willing to translate in our free time. I cannot impress or force anybody to say, well, you have to translate on Friday or and take off the time that you're supposed to be doing something else. No, no. And that comes with level of importance too. How important it is, how urgent it is then, this translation. All these things has to factor into. We have personal challenges. For example, we are connected here using my my mobile data from Digicel. It's quite expensive. It's not like it is gigabytes and maybe 2. It's not like the same thing. See, I'm just saying that my internet is unstable. It's not the same thing as you're in the coastline in Georgetown. I used to pay $5,700 for the same speed, unlimited, whole day, whole night. So it's not the same thing here. It's not the same thing to do. So that is a huge expense. And printing, we need to print. No, we need to print because, for example, Uncle Yan, luckily we have computer here in front of me to do my other work. But suppose people who don't have a computer access, we need to print those things for them. And that coming out of the translation money, the fee, no? What about the audio and the video tools? Thankfully, I said we have in the team here, we have Leah. She is quite suave with the apps, no? The audio app and the video app. You can cut it, you can merge it, and you can make it better. All these things are there. And this is quite technical. This is quite expensive. So, but it brings quality to the work then. It brings quality when you have all these things. And then you have people, if you didn't have Leah, for example, if I didn't have Leah, or the team that didn't have Leah, someone like Leah here, then we had to pay someone who knows how to cut audio and how to do the video, merge in the video, put the audio background in the video and all these things, right? And it takes time to do it. It takes time. Someone like my age to learn, I can learn, but it will take a month maybe to learn about it. And time is not for me to do that. And what I want to say here, that quality requires time and it is costly. If you want quality work, you need to give time, and it's also costly. It's not cheap. You need money to do all these things, because that depends on the level of importance. I say, if it's quite urgent, we need to take off our regular work in time to do something else. That depends on our supervisors and all those things. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the Wapichan team. So you can see we introduced ourselves already. And next slide. Here, at this point, I will ask Mr. Ian Paul to share his experience of translating and working with the PSAs, with the GLU documents that we translate with the Ministry of Education. He will speak about it and his experience. But briefly, as you can see in this diagram here, basically what we do here, you have the first Wapichan draft, which is done by Uncle Ian. And then you have a second to the fifth. I just put fifth here, not necessarily have to go to the fifth Wapichan draft with justification. That's me. And then the next process or the next step is the final Wapichan draft that both Mr. Ian Paul and and I come together and agree that this can be the final draft. And then we go to the back translator. The back translator happens to be Leah. And there also justification why we change, why our language, the back translator and changes then, no? And it happens in this step, it happens in step 1 already. Sorry, step 2 already, that it cannot work because of the Wapichan culture, Wapichan familiarity. So justification begins right on the second step. So and then after the back translator has, feedback, what does it mean? No, this doesn't really make sense in English. And what about Wapichan? Oh, it makes sense in Wapichan, but English, no. It's not making sense, no? So that kind of back to forth conversation is there. And then finally, when the back translator agree, okay, she understand this part, and it's fine. Then we go back. We take the document and go back to the main or the principal translator, who happens to be the chief Wapichan editor. So strokes, verb and object agreement, all will be taken care of again there with Mr. Young Paul. So it goes back to him. Spell check is done. We guarantee that any Wapichan speaker who is familiar with the writing system that we adopted can say that this is good, this is quality, this is, it's been stamped by Mr. Young Paul. No? So that is a quality that gives us to. And then finally, after he does that, then it goes to voice training, Voice training, what is voice training? For example, we have long Wapichan words, and our audio or the voicer may not be too familiar with like a word, no? So we train that training, I call it, just a minute or 5 minutes to say the word, how it sounds naturally. That comes from me or the main translator, Mr. Young Paul. So we help in this way. This is how you pronounce it. This is how it sounds natural. And finally, the recording of the audio. Now, the recording of the audio is done by Leah, and she does the editing, she does the cutting. Final thing is done by her there. So this is how we work. And okay, next slide, please.
Let's see.
Next slide.
Hold on, Silverius. I don't know why my button isn't working. Hold on.
Anyway, while you're talking, so this is the basic step that Wapichan team. Okay, here. So the steps and the process, we have 3 things here. One thing I'm missing here, the final product, the middle part should be the final translation or the work, then the final work, no? Same thing I try to show, but here I'm trying to show the relationship, how it works, no? You have the principal translator here, and then you have the Wapichan check and the English check. This is where I come in. And the principal translator here, Mr. Young Paul, no, drafts the first one. Okay, and then he sends it to me. I look at it. Of course, he already looked at the context and the culture of Wapichan. And then I make a check. How does it relate to Wapichan people? Does it make sense? Why? Because in our experience too, we tend to translate word for word in English, we word for word. Well, when the results comes out, it's not the same. It doesn't make sense to Wapichan people. It doesn't make sense to their ears. It's different. And in that draft, I give feedback, and then I also write an alternative input. That alternative input, I share back again to the main translator. So we come back again. This takes time. This takes time, hours it takes. So I go back with him and we produce a second draft. He produced a second draft. How does it sound? I asked him, does it sound Wapichan? Does it make sense to our elderly? Will the young people understand this? And then if we finally say yes and agree, then we produce a final draft. Now, there's a relationship there. The principal translator doesn't go to the back translator yet. So what I do now, or what we do here, we take it to the voicing or the back translator. That there's a relationship here. You can see that the Wapichan and the English Czech mostly converse with the back translator. Why? Because they're dealing with English, they're dealing with the English part here. And I give in the Wapichan, making sure that the Wapichan thinking or the cultural input is the same, because what happens in the back translation is that the back translator tends to try to merge or try to make it the same as the original English, to make it look good. But we know that it is cheating. So no, we have to make sure that the back translation, the main source of the back translation is the Wapichan, not the English in this case. Next slide, please. Okay, just go back. Ms. Charlene, I will now ask right here. I will now ask Mr. Young Paul to share his experience with you. And I think I've done my part here already too. So I will not be able to come back, but I will ask Mr. Young Paul to share his wonderful working experience on how it produced this Wapichan documents. So I'm handing over to you, Mr. Young Paul.
Thank you, Silverius.
Hi, good day, Ms. Chairman. I'm back again. At this time, I want to share my experience as being recently adapted to this translation unit. And I am very pleased to be part of it. And I think, and I believe I am doing my best to help as I help in this team, because I'm dealing with my language, which I am very, very familiar with. So I think there is no difficulty for me with translation, and I know I'm going to move forward with it. Had it been in a class session, I would have exposed myself as a teacher in identifying mainly on the vowels, because the vowels are mostly very important in translation, in translating in Wapichan words. The vowels are, let me quote it, A, I, O, U. But these are not alone. This is the normal way of saying the words. But it is interrelated to the nasalized vowels, where A becomes the nasalized vowel and I becomes the nasalized I. O becomes the nasalized O and U becomes U nasalized, where necessary in speaking. So this is how I am familiar with my Wapichan. And there is not only that, these full vowels will also be glottalized as A stroke A and I stroke I, O stroke I, O, sorry, and U stroke U. So it's very important for us to identify these, when they are made into words, and these vowels will form into a syllable. So I believe from hearing Mr. Perry, he has outlined all these experience that I am familiar with. So I want to say, from my part, I want to do my best to help in this translation. Because I was and I am still part of the Quality Bilingual Program for Wapchan children. Why? Because I love my language and I want to leave that legacy for the future generations. Because I don't want to leave my family or the Wapchan people, because nowadays the whole of the Wapchan nation is listening to how we are working as translators here in Aishalton. Why? Because I have experience in conducting Wapchan graduation, tutoring the Wapchan classes, and conversing with the elders, and finding facts from elders. Because in our language, and today's generation, young generation as I call it, they wouldn't be familiar with the words that the old people use, like how my grandmother used. But having been raised by my grandmother, the words are still in my mind. So I want to bring it back to this translation where it can be, once again, a new word to the Wapchan people. With this, I think I have in-depth knowledge of every culture, every habit, every ways about the Wapchan, which was never documented, but today, going to this translation unit, we would be able to have it in writing. And I am very proud to be a part of this translation unit. I want to thank you so much. Thank you.
Silverius, Mr. Paul, thank you so much.
So
Is Leah
now
going
we
to?
will have Miss Leah Casimero.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yes, she's given her experience. Leah here.
All right, so thank you. So yes, I am the voice of the PSAs. So even though Uncle Ian and Perry would have done most of the work, it would be my voice being listened to. So I am more of the English counterpart than the Wapichan, and that's why Perry was talking about the spectrum. So I'm conscious of that, being the member of the group. I'm also the only female in the group and the youngest. And I'm also conscious of my listeners who are listening, who are the ones receiving my message, who are the ones hearing my voice. So what I would do other than just back translating or just reading, I know they usually give me the text just to read, but I'm also conscious that it's my voice they will be hearing. So I usually check for meaning, for the flow, for clear, simple language, not too complex. What I usually call like the professor type language, because by right, I think Uncle Ian is like a professor of Wapichan language and translator, and so is Perry. So they would usually come with this very high Wapichan, and sometimes I get lost in it. So I usually try to get them to understand, to get it a little bit clearer or simple for others to understand. And also, as the only female, like they mentioned, earlier, some of our Wapichana language, we have male and female, sort of like Spanish. So everything has a male or a female voice, not an it, like English. So that's what I am conscious of. Also, when translating, if it's males translating, they will translate it as if it's a man is talking versus if it's a female talking. So I usually have to check on that before and to bring that female aspect into it and make it balanced. So more. Yeah, also I'm very sad I was born Wapichan, grew up here, but I am I grew up in a Wapichan village, but I'm very conscious that my grandmother, my mother, and so they're Makushi, and from my grandparents, they're Arikuna and all sorts of things. So I know that I cannot really question the two of them, but still I do it because I also understand Wapichan and I do it for the sake of my listeners and also for myself so I can learn from them. And also I would be the one receiving feedback from the audience because they get to hear my voice. So if they say, "Oh, it didn't make sense, what was that you were talking about?" If they say, "What did you mean by that? It doesn't make sense to me," then what would happen is, sorry, yeah, what would happen is they would hear my voice, so of course they assume I'm doing all the work. So because I used to have feedback like that, I decided, okay, I'm going to question some things. I'm going to ask some questions because yes, I may not be fully versed in Wapichan like the other two, but I'm also very much familiar with the context. I grew up here, and I know it's not just old people listen to radio or to the Wapichan PSAs, as some people might think, oh, it's just the old people will listen. No, our young people like myself, we also very much listen to it and can connect more. So for the sake of that, I would ask the questions and get into, a little bit of argument sometimes just to make it perfect, to get that quality, to get that flow or to get that meaning. So yes, also I remember at the last, thank you, Perry, it went off again. At the last meeting I attended with the GLU, I did say I felt it was important that we get medical people to help us with the medical terms because I think one of the CHWs in the earlier part when COVID came last year, she did something very beautiful. She translated one of the leaflets that were given to her. And since she's already a fluent Wapichan speaker, maybe she doesn't write it, but she speaks it well. And also she speaks the medical language as a community health worker. So she was able to do it so effectively, I should say. And I also told you I asked a former CHW to explain what was COVID and so on, long before the ministry even started doing any translations, before GLU started doing anything. And he did such a great job. Until now, people talk about it. People talk about the fact that, oh, we understood what he was saying. So, but then we understand as well with the GLU that there are some terms, and that's why the back translation is important, that we don't go away or stray too far from the text. But sometimes it is necessary, because at the end of it, it's the meaning and understanding that we are trying to get. So for medical people to be involved, it would be great, but then we know they're always busy. So, but then I think it would be more effective, and we are going to guarantee people understanding if it's the local medical people themselves doing the translation or the explanations. So far, we haven't been able to do that. However, that's something we can do in the future. So yes, so in summary, with the audio part, I look for the clarity. It must be simple. It must be understandable, and the flow with Wapichan. Those of you who would know, it's like very long language. We merge phrases together, and it's very difficult to one word almost. I can't say how many characters, but at least probably 20 characters. Much like that, I would rework with Perry on how we can cut that to make it flow better or to punctuate it better, you know, so when I'm reading, it makes sense. I already spoke about the audience who is listening, males, females, old and young. And the end goal of our PSAs is not just to produce something, give it and get paid for it, but the end goal is for people to understand and become informed. And if they're not understanding, then they're not going to be informed, then it's useless. Now, it looks good. Yes, people are translating and it looks good in indigenous languages. But if you don't get feedback from your audience, I think that's one of the things I get is because I am known on the local radio. So people do have my contact number and they would give me feedback, good feedback, bad feedback. You know, like the coughing and the bent elbow, I had like 3 persons say that doesn't make sense. How can you bend your elbow? We would just say cough in your arm. It makes more sense to upchan than cough into the bent elbow. But then since the direct translation was being done directly, we had to do it. If you said arm, it meant something else. So these are the things we have to deal with. So when people are able to give you feedback, you know whether or not you are effective or not, or just doing something looking beautiful but not making sense. So that's the good thing that we have, the feedback from people. Also the voice. Whose voice is it that people are listening? Whose voice is it that they are hearing giving this message? You know, the voices do have a lot of weight. And that's why if we had, for example, like the CHWs, the community health workers or the doctors talking, then people know, oh, this is Dr. So-and-so, this is my community health worker talking. And, you know, the credibility is there and they would be more inclined to listen. I don't know if I'm credible enough. I think I'm credible enough in that people know me from the last 2 years being on radio and they said they like my program. So I have a little bit of credibility, but I still feel if it's like medical things we're dealing with, that we should have the medical people to get that credibility. Otherwise, if they listen, oh, is she talking or he talking, you know, then the message gets lost to me because people are listening to whose voice it is they're hearing, you know. Overall, I think our team mix helps us. We have 2 men, 2 males, 1 female, and we have a variety of age groups. And we're able to argue well, I think, our case, why it should be like this, why it should not be like this, for the sake of the listeners in the end, because it's not us who is going to benefit from that. It's going to be the listener at the end of the day. So I think that's all I have to share with you at this time. Just one of my challenges would be the audio, because I do it here. This is the place I work. Actually, this is my office space. And when I'm recording, then I will have a motorcycle passing. I'm right on the main road. I will have, you know, vehicles going randomly, horns beeping, all sorts of things. I have to pause. Sometimes I read a whole sentence and then I have to wait until, you know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes for this particular person to pass the road. And then I go again. And there's a chicken nearby deciding to, you know, crow very loudly when I'm almost done. And all of these things I have to deal with. But if I was in a studio, it would have been different. But then to go in the studio to use it, it's, you know, I can't do that. It's not mine. And they usually have a cost attached, which is very high. I don't think we'd be able to pay that. So then we are limited to the phone and the quiet time and, you know, cutting and pasting over certain sounds that we don't want very visible in the audio. So these are the challenges I have to face. Other than that, so far, I think I have been learning a lot from these 2. And I think we have been doing a great job. Everybody, yourselves as well, we have been doing a great job. And we should continue it. Also, just that maybe we can add a little diversity into our team, you know, get males and females, young and old to listen. So you have an idea of the quality of your work before it even goes out to the listening audience. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope I didn't miss out anything. And yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much.
Leah, Silverius, Ian, Uncle Ian, I can't thank you enough for this. It was way beyond my expectations. Not to say that I did not expect great things, but the thoroughness, the detail, the expanse of concerns that you touched on today are absolutely incredible. And I know that we've all learned a lot. Before I open the floor, I would also like to add, though, I was hoping that Professor Devonish will be here today. I would like us to recognize that without his dream of this happening, maybe we never would have made it happen. And we never might have been able to reach each other across the nation like this. Nations meeting nations within the Guyanese state. And I would say this is really only the beginning, but it's a really incredible beginning. One of the things, without sounding sacrilegious, Silverius, I'd like to say I see you almost like a sacred, I'm gonna wait till he's listening to me, he's listening to me. I see you as a sacred trinity, in a sense, doing what Professor Robertson said about preserving the democracy. To my mind, we have not yet created a democracy. I would say that what we're doing here is beginning to demarcate a probability of preserving, of creating and strengthening our democracy. Because without the language rights, without the development of our languages, we truly cannot develop our people. So over to you now. The floor is open for anyone. What you can do is use the option for raising hand. It's on the right-hand side is where you see reactions. You click on reactions and you click raise hand, or you can raise your hand in the video and we will see that you want to speak.
Where is it?
So, hi, Gloria, is that you? Good, go ahead. YLC, is that Gloria?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry to join you at this time. I thought I would never be part of it, but I'm so happy. And this is the first time I am participating in a Zoom meeting like this. Well, I am one of the, I wouldn't say I am the professional translator of the Mukushi language, but I am one of them. It's three of us. The two are elderly, I would say they are over 6, going to 70 now. And I joined the translation from last year, and this will be the second year, trying my best to be part of the translation. Well, the Mukushi researchers started to do the translation, and they have there the translation of the Amerindian Act, as well as a book. The Mukushi, they have various things, and it's a big book, and that have the names of the birds, the forest, and many more. So, and then they work too at that time with they work on pamphlets. They had little pamphlets and through Iwokrama. And so I learned to read from that little pamphlet. I was not that person who would do the writing. But today, I am one of the team, I would say team member, who is trying, I am trying my best to learn to write in my language. Learning from Auntie Benita and Uncle Jerome, they are the translators. So likewise, when we are doing the translation, sometimes we go in, we wouldn't understand this dramatic English, I would call it, and then we would do our research on the dictionary to make it simple before we do the translation. And we tried our best to translate the original English into the Mukushi language. And after we do that, now to go to do the back translation, that we have a little struggle sometimes, because Uncle Jerome will say, well, I don't think there is a simple word for this language, this word, but we would try our best. And so we have been trying our best to do that. And I was listening to one of my brothers and sisters of the Wapichan, where they said, if we don't get the feedback from the people, we would think that we're doing the best translation. But if people do respond to us, then we will say, yes, indeed, we need to improve on the translation. And another thing, Mukushi, there are different people have different pronunciation. I don't know if the Wapishans have the same, but in the Mukushi language, like the South Pakuraimas, they have different pronunciation. And so when they listen to us, they will say, this pronunciation is, we try to listen to both sides, but at the end of it, the words meaning the same. So this was one of our little challenges during our translation. But nevertheless, we tried and we continue to try. I really want more people to be involved in the translation. And recently, we had young people asking us if we, like our brothers, the Wapichan, have already the teacher teaching the language there. They wanted somebody to do that in the Mukushi language here in our village in the Anai area. And I was very proud when they said that. And so now let me just move a little bit to the audio. When we're doing the audio, likewise, we have little challenges. The voice, and it takes a little time. We have to get somebody that really knows to do the audio, because there are noise background and all kinds of things happen during that time. And so I have been trying my best to use my little phone to do the audio and try to send it to you. But I would like to know, or we would like to know, if the audio is good, I would say that way. And I don't do it on my own. When after this is done, I would meet with the two translators and I would say, this is it. How does it sound? Was it pronounced the right way? Or is it something that needs to be corrected? And by doing that, we go through it again. And this is how we have been trying our best to do the Mukushi translation. And yes, so people out there, when they listen to some of the words, they would say, that is not the word, that is not the way to pronounce it. I said, but then these translators, they know they're using the dictionary from the Mukushi dictionary to get the right words. So I don't think I have more to say. I'm very happy to share my little message, or how I should say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. Folks, please feel free to butt in and add on.
Carla, where to go, you said?
Charlene?
Yes, bro.
And everybody, my comment is really just one to express my high level of satisfaction with the quality of commitment and observation and understanding of the issues, commitment to the translation process, and understanding and appreciation of the issues. I think the issues that have been aired are issues that really need to be taken very seriously. And as far as possible, we can help to address them. I've been thinking of a number of possibilities. I keep thinking of a very old practice that we used to have in Guyana on that program, Deaths and Messages, where we used to send messages on the radio to people all over Guyana. Basically, it was done in English, but what the structure suggests is that there is an alternative possibility where if it is those people who have either video or radio or both could be seen as a community that would help to spread the word to other people who may not have that kind of immediate access and may not be able to see you and may not be able to afford the cost of a video feed. I think that might be an alternate way of dealing with it, especially if there are programs that are recorded and can be shared on a less expensive medium like radio, because that is less expensive, I would think, than video in those areas. But then I don't really know because I haven't lived in those areas in recent years. That's one thing. The other thing that I think we need to be very conscious of, and it is the awareness of the medium that we're using and the need in my mind for what I like to think is a naturalist setting. I would not be too disturbed by the odd, I don't want to call it odd, by the different sounds that you get. I know they can be distracting if you're listening for those sounds, but if you're listening for the message, I think it is important that that be heard. In fact, a lot of my own linguistic research all over the country, you can hear a cock crowing, whether it be an Essequibo cock or a cock in Wakapau or one in Berbice River, they just crow. And you can't, or the pigs at Kokwani, you can't tell them not to do that. And so we have to realize that some of these activities can be as sanitized as my friend Silverius is her name, was thinking, because these are the challenges that you face with the technology that she's using. I think what is more important is clarity. And if the message can be heard above those disturbances, then that is fine. Because in any normal situation, you have to deal with noises. If somebody's talking to you and a truck goes by, they don't stop listening and say, the truck is passing. What happens is that they kind of try to listen above the noise. When it gets too loud, of course, obviously they can't hear you. But I don't think that unless it is disturbing for the listener, that it should be addressed. But what I find fascinating about the discussion are the issues of the impact of gender, right? Whether it's a male or female speaking or listening, and the impact of age. We are accustomed to talking about age and age only. And sometimes we're accustomed to talking about word structure. Yes, English has these maybe at most 2 or 3 syllable words. English doesn't like long syllables. And when you're dealing with a language where the whole sentence could sound like one word, there's a little difficulty, there's a little difference there, and we need to learn to appreciate that and to train the ear to hear it. So I don't know that I have anything more than that that I could contribute at this moment, but to say thanks very much. I have become even more appreciative of the issues, and I hope that the powers that be, meaning the people who have to listen to it, appreciate the quality and the level of commitment and work that is going into this. I'm not too concerned about the official kind of reaction to it. I'm more concerned about the people who will benefit from it. And I think their commitment is important. I also think, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, that this is an important catalyst for language survival, because it seems as if by presenting young people with information in a format that they can understand, and incidentally, if you heard that scream, it's my grandchild. So you know what I'm talking about when I say you'll get distractions. But I'm saying that when the young people begin to show an interest in a language, it can survive. And as somebody who is still lamenting, in fact, I'm still working on the last speaker of a particular language who died 5 years ago now. I can really appreciate the need for the young persons to commit or to want to commit to the language, all right, and to have it develop. So we shouldn't let any barriers, if it's going to be through spreading information on health and welfare, if that is going to bring them closer to appreciating their language and their culture, that is important. And that I think we have to really work with. And I want to congratulate all the participants who have been actively involved in that. So that's a lot of talk from me, and I promise you I'm not going to say anything more.
I don't want you to promise too hard, Prof, but thanks. Floor is open. Any burning issues? No question is a stupid question. Anything that's troubling you. Yes. Gloria has a question, but Ovid wanted to ask. Okay, Gloria and then Ovid.
No, it's not a question. It's just that I fully. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yes, I fully agree with the programs on the radio. People do listen and they want to hear more. We have been receiving comments like that. They, whenever it is being broadcast through the radio, people want to hear more of it, and they would say, oh, I just wish if I was one of them. I just wish if I could read. And these are some of the recommendations they have been. We should have more programs through the radio, and that would and they would follow. They would follow because that is the only way or the form of the people getting the message, because we don't have TVs in this area. We don't have the, how I should call it, not like this city. This is an interior, and the radio is the only way how people get the information. So thank you very much.
I can talk. Okay, Mr. Silverius Perry and team, congratulations on a work well done. It's real good quality work. Like the Makushi translators, we have the same challenge where
the three clusters have different pronunciations and intonations for phrases and words and so on. And also in the audio, speakers may not know to read the language, and those that can read, y'all hearing me?
I can hear you, Ovid.
Okay, you hearing me?
Yes, Ovid.
Okay. Yes, I was commending Mr. Perry and team on a quality work that on the presentation. And just like the Makushis, we have problems with the different pronunciations for words. We have three clusters in the Patamuna, which is the Madhya sub-district. Then we have the Kupinang, Kaibarupai cluster, and then we have the Paramagatoy and Taruka cluster, and some words may differ. So we have that challenge when we're doing the audio to satisfy everybody. Secondly, some speakers may not know to read the language, and those that can read it may not be fluent in reading it. So we have what we refer to as corn picking. That is, they're not fluent. So for example, they would say, ayam na muwa butet etnek parang yapichi awya tukai. Now that is corn picking, that's not fluent. They're not saying that is how it would be said naturally. But when they're reading it, because they're not fluent in the reading, they kind of stutter, and that can mar the fluency of the audio. I have a question for the medical team, the two doctors. We practice our traditional medicine, and they don't want to take the vaccine, even though they hear the PSAs. They don't want to take it because they said that they're already masked using their traditional methods, which is incantation for a bamboo or a cow horn, and they blow the cow horn, and they say the forest and the natural resources like the mountains, the stones, the forest would absorb any medicine, any illness that coming into the village. That's our belief. And then they also have herbal treatments. So what is the situation with using conventional medicine as compared to integrated medicine, the traditional integrated medicine? What is the take on the ministry or from the medical aspect? Thank you.
Well, we know that traditional medicine is part of the culture. We cannot run, or we cannot tell persons not to use what they think would work for them, or what they grow up using and what is working for them. However, in terms of putting that on the radio or on the media, to use the traditional medicine instead of what the ministry has advised in, that has to come from a higher level, because yes, I would advise my patients both ways, whichever one is working for them. I also advise them on what to do, but I cannot tell them, okay, don't accept what the doctor is given, or don't accept what the nurse or medics is given, and continue using our traditional medicine. I think that's something that has to come from a higher level.
So is there vaccine together with the medicine? Hello, did you hear my question, please? Did you hear my follow-up question, Doc? Did you hello, anybody hear me?
Oh, we seem to frozen. We seem to be frozen. Silverius, are you hearing us? Doc? All right. Okay, no, I'm still online. Maybe Doc Spencer is frozen. All right, let's wait a bit. Can anyone jump in right now who can hear us and who has an issue, a problem to bring up, a question to ask? Silverius, are you back with us?
So
Leah.
Leah here, yes. So I just wanted to share a comment. The dialogues that we did, they were very well received by our audience. And like we had mentioned earlier, our language is more active than passive. So I think that's why it was very well received. And also people like to hear real life dialogues, you know. So those were very well received until now, even though we play them every week, people look forward to hearing them. And the people who did the audio, did the dialogue, they were very good as well, very good actors and actresses. But it did take a long time, like Ovid mentioned, to get them to actually read the script, because while they were very good at it, the reading part was very difficult. Now for the question. My question is, how can we get medical people to help us with the COVID PSAs? Just in case we are translating, you know, just as translating versus as a real medical person would understand it. How do we get help with that? And if we do get some persons who would be interested in doing that with us, helping our team, how would payments come in? Would the GLU pay them separately, additionally? How would that work? Because I really feel like we should get some medical people to help us with our PSAs, especially the COVID ones, the vaccination and all of those things. So I don't know if Dr. Ilona or Dr. Nicola, maybe you can help us with this. How can we get, you know, local medical people to help us as well, first of all, understand properly, or people who we can ask questions to directly to help with the quality of work of the PSAs. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Richards here. For the COVID team, since I came to Charlton, I actually asked for volunteers. People who can volunteer on the team. They'll be putting their family at rest, everything at rest, their time. We're not paying them. We asked for volunteers. So that's what we did. But that's what I did then. And we have the COVID under control now. So I think you should ask, because you should ask people. I don't know if they have a system in paying them, because a lot of people would need payments. But as for me, if you ask me anything, I'm always willing to help. You don't have to pay me, Alban. Until my time, if
Thank
I
you.
have time.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's from past experience too. It's very difficult to get hold of a doctor, at least here, because every time you try to call to find out something, they're never available. So I don't know if the CHWs would be better to help. I know they're all occupied, and we understand that you are so busy, but there are times we need to ask some questions, clarifications, and so on. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Nicola.
I have a suggestion, Miss Leah, but I don't know if you can go on with the doc. Are you hearing me? Anybody hearing me? Anybody hearing me? Mr. Perry, hear me?
Okay, they're not hearing. I don't know why. I wonder if our internet is iffy. Iffy. Silverius, can you hear me now? Okay, now they're hearing.
Yes, now we are. Now we are.
Okay, Leah, I have a suggestion. What about if you and your team, or this is for the other groups too, those in Moruca and Pacaraimos, etc., prepare a questions and answer paper. The person, not necessarily a doctor, but a medic or a health worker, and then go on radio and Dr. Nicola Richards, she Kono, be able to talk in Guapishan, so but in English, and that's how I can translate it also into the Guapishan. And that might help.
Did everyone hear Ovid?
No, I'm sorry.
It's my bandwidth. Well, Ovid was suggesting that the questions that you have for the doctors can be sent on the radio, and then the doctors would get it. But my question, my addition to that would be, I thought you meant you wanted doctors permanently on the teams, the translation teams, which I thought was an excellent idea. Well, that's the question that was asked. Leah asked that question, whether the ministry, and this is where the university can come in, advocate on behalf of the translation teams, that the ministry pays money to the health worker because they want health advice. You see? Peter. I don't know if people are hearing us. Maybe our bandwidth is low, but please, we are hearing you clearly, so go ahead.
We're hearing you, Charlene.
Oh. Well, let us heard, so we're just waiting for more comments.
Just a concern here. I discussed trying to find out since you're all here. Like, you know, how effective have these translation cases been in the communities that are far flung? These communities that have radio access. And now we're doing video translation video. So what's the response like in these areas? Feedback? Is there any TV that is broadcast? I'm sure. I'm glad if we can have some feedback.
Okay, Shondell, you need to repeat everything because you were breaking up. You sounded like it get clearer now. Shondell? You think we getting feedback from your device? It wouldn't affect it. No. Shondell, can you hear me? Shondell, you're muted. We're asking that you repeat what you said because you are breaking up a lot. All right, obviously, Gloria, can you hear me? I'm seeing you, so nod if you're hearing me.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right, so maybe Shondell's internet is gone. I think she was asking something about the radio. Okay, Prof, thanks. Thanks, and we'll hear more from you. I'll share the link. I'll share the recording with you, Prof, so you can hear the entire discussion and maybe share and suggest directions we could go in. Prof Robertson is leaving. It's now 10:14. We've been at it for 2 hours, just a little under 2 hours. Shondell is asking now. She's put a message in the chat for us. Okay, Shondell is asking, what is the feedback from the far-flung areas that are not getting radio signals? Yes, are they getting TV signals? Translators who are out there would be maybe the best people to know what the feedback is like. But we got good feedback from Makushi and Wapichan, but we didn't get feedback from anybody else. Akim, we'd love to hear from you. Anyone else? Now, what I have to say now at this point would be not so much a question, but a challenge to the team, a challenge to the other translators who are not Wapichan or Makushi. The challenge to you would be to organize your team and to take a pattern of the Wapichan team and what you heard Gloria say about how her team works. Okay, Silverius is adding in a point here about, okay, from the Rupununi, only the YYs we cannot reach by radio. They have Facebook, that is true. Yes. And we're losing people right now. So I'd love to hear from the other translators about the possibilities for organizing teams in your communities, your villages. A translation team of the same kind of constitution of an elder, somebody in the middle generation, and somebody in the young generation to keep the language preservation, to advance it, to keep the language in the presence of the younger people. Any thoughts, comments?
From the YY.
Hi, Bernicia.
Like any other translators here, I had faced several challenges, especially the scientific words. But some words are not used in YY, therefore the ones like those words, I would just have to explain it. And I'm thankful for Dr. Robertson and others when we did the workshop. It was kind of helpful for me. So that I would just have to explain my words, and some would go directly and indirectly. Most words in English words we have our words don't really match. It's like upside down from the back. So that's what I had faced several challenges throughout my translations, but in the end, I'm getting at it. Most nights I would just go right through without sleeping. I would like to just finish it off. And for the voicing, it's like my background's always busy. So much noise around me, but I would wait like 2 o'clock in the morning when the place is like quiet to do my chant, to do my voicing. But like Sylvia says, we don't have a radio up there, but we have internet. And I just normally send it to them through WhatsApp and like a video or anything that could be reached there. But we have a radio in Latam, and most times the YYs come out and they call me back and say, "Is you really talking on the radio? I hear you not, So I get back a feedback saying that they listen to my voice. That is that I would say is a good thing.
Yes, excellent. And go on.
Has any of our local medical personnel has done research on this coronavirus? That's one question. Second question is this virus a natural disease? That's what's on my mind. Thank you.
The first question can be addressed to the doctors in the team because I definitely can't answer that question. I don't know if the doctors could try or anyone else who might have information about have local medical professionals done research on the virus. Hearing me? Gloria, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And Skeeter has a question to answer, but the Dr. Spencer is saying no. Maybe we could ask the doctors to check it out and answer. Later on, we'll share emails. And the second question, is the virus a naturally occurring virus? Can anyone answer that question? Again, I can't. I don't have enough knowledge. Bernice, I guess you're asking, is it made in a lab and inflicted upon the population? Just to stop it ringing. No, bring the remote one.
So can we have
red light.
more explanation on that to translate or to have a better understanding of what the virus is. And also the same goes for the vaccine. So we can have a translation on those two things. Thank you.
Now,
Hi,
you're
Dr.
asking. Go on.
Hi. Yes, so I cannot answer directly if the virus is being made in a lab or that question, but we as doctors, well, I treat patients. I don't treat virus. I don't treat bacteria. We treat patients in a whole. So if you come in with COVID, we will treat you as a patient. Your general, either it be virus or bacteria, we treat you as a patient, not a virus. We're not treating the virus, we're treating a patient. So I cannot answer that question either.
So Bernicia, I know the question is there, it's out there, and millions of people are asking it, and I don't think we have the competence to answer the question. If there's anyone in the room who has the competence or who thinks they have the competence, please answer the question or at least attempt an answer. Sorry to disappoint you, Bernicia. I think
Charlene?
Yes, go ahead, Seneca.
Charlene, I don't want Bernicia to feel that she's the only one in our group wondering about these things. And she has every right to be asking something like that. And her question was addressed to the medical people in the group because they might be the ones who could do some further reading and checking whether there is any and I mean, medical people, and I really appreciate the way the questions were answered, honestly. The medical people normally, if they're good doctors and so on, they treat patients as a whole, holistically. And so whether the virus comes out of a lab or not is not going to be a major part of their research. But Benicia's concern is probably linked with the fact that much evidence has come out over the last year and a half showing that there was nothing novel about the virus when it was announced, at least in the English-speaking world around earlier last year. So we need to have Guyanese too who are informed and can read these studies and understand, you know, why is it that the sequences were already patented before they came out of the lab in Wuhan? Why is it that Pfizer already applied for a patent over 20 years ago for the same thing that now is being said is novel. So even though it's not going to, I mean, even though it's bothering people, you know, the thing is, you've committed to translating what is coming, as somebody said, from higher up. But Benicia, I would imagine that you're wondering, do we have to challenge some of the things coming from higher up, or do we have to, you know, do we have to just assume that other people are doing the research? And I think you're right in assuming that other people are not doing the research for us. That's just, and I still want to encourage, you know, the language aspect of this, but I don't want people to shut off their critical thinking while they're doing it. Skeeter has a hand up.
Peter?
Hi. Yes, I have a question and a comment directed to Mr. Perry and his team. Yes, I too think that you guys are doing an excellent job, and I must commend you for that. I will definitely take example from you and try to get better at what I do. For me, as a translator, well, I always say translator interpreter because of the same reasons and because of the same things I encounter in doing the work that we're doing. The words that is not in my language, trying to find substitute or explaining what we have, what they give us in English, trying to explain it the best way possible, and doing that in our language. We all find that because from listening to the others, it's a similar problem within all of the languages. The thing with me now is that even though we are translating, interpreting just PSAs, it's like from a language standpoint, ever so often I am asked questions about if you should or should not, like my opinion on if people should or should not take the vaccine. Everyone is so all over there. People mixed emotions. People are skeptical. Some are okay with it, and I am, I am telling people, you know, this is my voice. This is my work that I'm doing. I am advising people to take a vaccine, telling you about how should I say, the benefits of it. I am not telling people about the side effects of it. And there are so many things that people direct questions to me, which of course I cannot answer because I don't know how to answer. But my question is to you, Mr. Perry and team, how do you deal with this? You know, because you seem more organized, and well, you are more organized than me and my group that I work with. And I would just like to know, how do you deal with these questions, and how is it the same with you then, and how do you deal with it?
Okay, I heard you, Miss Samantha Thomas, and the team is not converge on any one particular idea. What I think you're bringing here is like an individual take on this on the world, no, on the because everyone has a different spectacle how they see the world. My spectacle is different than yours, and so is Leah. Now, what we converge on here is getting the message the right message to the people. Now, I have a different opinion. I have many opinions about all the things that you spoke about, but it's a private opinion. And one thing I told myself that I'm like anybody, layman in regarding to medical field. My sources of information comes from Facebook, from YouTube. Most of it are questionable sources. So what I do is I ask doctors. I have doctor friends who went and studied, and I'm very thankful here we have Dr. Nicola Richards and Miss Dr. Ilona Spencer. These are the people you need to ask, you know? Now, coming back to my personal take on this, how do we get over this to translate? Well, we don't get this personal opinions get into our way of getting the final results, of getting the right information to our Wapichan people. No, that's important. We getting the right information, and it comes from the Ministry of Education. Sorry, Ministry of Health. No, and I think the Ministry of Health. The minister himself is a medical doctor and has an authority, I think, more than me, and he knows his field, and he has a team that deals in that area. So I'm not really too worried about the medical aspect. Of course, the moral, you know, the moral, who am I to, or who will guide me in this direction? No? It's a question of, I want to repeat a question of, like, you know, your own personal take on it, your own responsibility. And I am responsible to my mom, my dad, you know, they are in their 70s. So things like that, I put that into my mind. My uncles, my neighbors, my team here, Uncle Ian, he's in his 70s, you know, so those kind of responsibility, I have that first individual responsibility, and then I have the social responsibility. That thing is in my mind. So not that I don't allow like individual opinion coming to our work as a team. No? So thank you. Leah will also have her own take on this. Come, Leah.
Okay, well, thank you, Perry. So for radio as well, we always have to use credible sources. So when people ask us these questions, of course, coming from our Wapichan thinking way of life and so on, we refer them to the WHO source, also the Ministry of Health. And we also receive, for example, brochures and so about the vaccines from the medics or the doctor, and they would send those to us to share with the people on their behalf. So when we give the message to them, to the people, that is, at the end we would say, you know, this was sent by medics so-and-so or doctor so-and-so, so people know that this is coming from a medical person. But to interpret it now to my own understanding, we steer clear of that. I steer clear of that. Our team at the radio steers clear of that as well. Like the doctor said, you know, we can't answer that. But this is what the WHO, this is what the Ministry of Health is saying. This is what our local medics or doctor is saying. And that is where we leave it, because if we, you know, entangle ourselves a little too much, then we might not be able to get out of that. So we try as much as possible not to go there. Just, you know, give the facts. This is it. These are the facts, and you get to interpret it as you wish, I guess, from your own personal experiences. I don't know if that is helpful to you, Samantha, but that's what we do here. So thank you.
Thanks, Leah. I'd like to endorse the personal decision, and no one in this team has signed any contract in blood with the GLU. You can walk away from this at any point in time, and we will have no feelings of malice or anything at all. And you can walk back in at any point in time as well. In terms of getting what information comes from the state to people in their own languages, I believe the GLU firmly believes, I think everybody in the GLU would say, and this is the position of most language activists, that it is better to know the information that's coming from the state in your own language than to be wondering what it is. And I think that is the role we are playing. The legal documents, the Amerindian Act, the laws, the policies of the state need to be known by the people. And if the people's language is not the official language, the colonial language, then we need to get that information out in their language. And that is the role we are playing. If we want to extend our role to become experts in the medical field, then that is a different matter, but the GLU does not have the capacity to do that. At least most certainly not at this time. As a matter of fact, that is not our mandate. Our mandate is to promote language development, language preservation, and language rights and policy. Any more comments? Derek.
Okay. I want to say about the translating the Waro language. Yes, I grew up in a Waro family. My grandmother, she speaks only Waro, no English at all. But growing up there, I understand every piece of word that she say. But I never take it into consideration and try to move from there. I never speak. The only thing I do, I sing in the language. But when I was called upon to do the translation, it was very difficult because the Warao does not even have letters or spellings. They only speak. And it was very difficult for me to come on board. But I decided that I will try my best because I don't want the Waro language to die. So I take up the challenge. I know it's challenging for me, especially. I don't have other people coming on board to help me. I'm alone, I work, and it's very difficult to come to do the translation. But I tried my best so that the people could understand. What we do have in our area is that we have the Waro people in my community, which is Waramori. And you get the other Waros coming from Venezuela. So they have difference there. There is a guy that worked with us a couple of years ago in translating, and that is where I started. So he was saying to me, he doesn't want the Waro language to mix with the Spanish. It's a little different. And so I was saying, well, we will have to work with what we have. And so I tried my best to get it done. I know it's very challenging. I had to go to the dictionary to understand the English. Very hard. I even didn't know to do the audio as well. But I get help from people. I ask questions and then they helped me. And so far, I am getting along quite good in this time. But then the only thing I cannot speak it fluently is what Mr. Ovid was saying just now. I pick corn. But I'm thankful of doing that because I want the people to know. I didn't make that to daunt my spirit, but I wanted to get better as the time rolls. So I am here in the Waro language, and now getting people to work with the translation, the people need money, finances. I am the only person maybe work voluntarily. That is the reason I am here today. Because if I was not doing that, I could have stayed away from it as well. But I see the Waro as one language are dying. They have no families within the Waro. Waro stand by itself. And so I try my best to get the Waro language translated. Maybe I'm not doing quite well as yet, but as time rolls, I think we will get better and better in this translation. Thank you.
Floor is open. Floor is open.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to Miss Casimero for her response. I think you get what I'm saying a little better than Mr. Perry, but I do not give my personal opinion on this. Matter of fact, I don't know how to answer people when it comes to those questions, so I don't answer them. I was just asking, if you guys get the same reaction from people, the same questions, and if you do, how do you deal with it? But I do not put my personal opinion into anything that comes to translation because the mere fact that I don't know. So thank you, Miss Leah.
Floor is open. Sandra can't come on. She's not getting in, but she sent a text. She said, this is the Akawayo translator. I have been told that the audio in different translations will be heard through radio stations. I believe nothing has been heard. My people were asking what's vaccine and COVID. All were questioned and I tried to explain. Can all the translations be heard through radio? I can try to promise that I'll ask the Ministry of Health what's happening with radio broadcast. This is the first time they've sent us videos, and our technical person is giving them an extra bonus by sending the audios to them as well. So it's not like they don't have them in audio form as well. So, okay, Ovid is reminding us about the radio frequencies and the limitations of radio reaching the rest of Guyana. Region 7 for Akawayo, right. Yes. Well, I'm not going to suggest folks that the COVID pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic has not shaken all of our lives up. All I can say is I congratulate you for having made it so far. You're 2 feet planted on the ground and you're continuing to work for your language and your people. And I would like to say that we would like to continue this unity beyond COVID, right? COVID was something that allowed us to come together, but it certainly cannot be the only thing that brings us together. And the various professionals in your various fields of work within your communities, I believe, can start to get involved in what kind of information the people are deserving of receiving and what kind of education allows the people to discover more about health, more about environmental safety and personal health. But again, let me emphasize, that is not the mandate of the GLU. We may become with GLU, people may become professionals in other areas and get involved in that. but they can't do it as GLU people. I don't know if any comments, anybody has any comments?
Charlene, this is to you. The presentation that was made by the Wapishan group is very thorough and detailed, and I'm wondering whether you can make the challenges that we face available to the providers of the scripts that we have so that they can know what are our challenges and how we can try to mitigate those challenges. And that might even be a little advantage to improve our remuneration. Thank you.
Take that as being duty bound. Thank you, Ovid. I'll do my best to reach out to the ministry in a very official way. Well, yes, I think they did. I think Bernice is already telling us bye-bye. And I really appreciated this morning. It is really beyond my expectations. What I did expect though, I expected a little bit more of people sharing, translators, sharing their difficulties with translations. I could have liked to hear, well, how would you say this? We had difficulty with that. How would you say reading from the scripts themselves? But you will let me know if you think we need to do more of this. I can do more of this all the time. I live for this, but it's up to you. Your time, as Silverius very well noted, this is your precious time, and you're taking time out of your normal day, the day that matters to you, to come to this. So I really, really appreciate this. Yes, Seneca, go ahead, sweetheart.
Just one quick thing. I was hoping that the group chat could probably address some of the vocabulary that different groups have come up with, because when you hit something really difficult and together you found a solution, even saying how you came to that solution in your language might prompt another group to find a solution that is based on the way they resolve their matter. So, sometimes it might seem like you're just talking about one word, but in the group, you might be able to resolve that kind of difficulty with the language. I mean, I was listening in the beginning as Silverius was explaining about words like, sorry, I should have, like airstrip or backyard hang, those kinds of things happen in so many languages. And once you realize that it can't be taken literally, you might be able to help the others think of something, Anyway, that was a bit long-winded. I hope you understood what I meant.
Yes, but excellent idea, that we can use our group chat. Yes, as an expanded workshop. Well, we could do more of it. Yeah, we do it already, but we could certainly be brave to do it more and use the voice as well as the text. Shondell is suggesting that maybe another session be called, but this time with time limit for each language. Oh, time limit so that we don't run out of megabytes. All right, and have an agenda to outline. Well, this is where everybody comes in, I am really the coffee girl for the GLU. I just take everything, what your needs are, and bring it to the people who are supposed to have the power and the money in the state at the university level, and say this is what the people are asking for. The GLU is an advocacy group. In that sense, it is a deeply political group, and it can advocate on behalf of communities. I think we are the only unit in the university right now. I may be wrong, but we are one of the few units, if not the only unit, that attracts funding and pays out to the communities rather than keeping it for the university. I must confess that we do keep 30%, and half of that is split between the university budget and the GLU budget. So, and you can always argue that we take in too much money and you should get more of it, but put it in writing. Put it in writing, because I know some people argue strongly that university shouldn't get any at all, that all the money should be paid entirely out to the communities. So,
Yes.
and somebody echoing yes. So yes, so we have letters to write and advances to make towards the people in the state. Does anyone need to make any last words, to say any last words? This is, well, not last word, but closing words. My closing words would be, this was absolutely fantastic. It was worth missing breakfast for, which I'm now going to have. And I really appreciate you all and hope that you will stay with us, including Doctors Richards and Spencer. Okay, folks. So if there are no famous last words for now, Silverius is waving bye-bye. Thank you for staying on, Silverius. Thank you for staying on, and we'll be meeting in the group chat as well as planning further workshops like this. Thank you. Bye-bye. Ovid says this is great, and that's, Ovid is not easy with compliments. Silverius, y'all were fantastic. And Wapichan, big up Wapichan.
Translate.
Amen. 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 Atif in a Jamaican word. Big up. Big up. Kaimen mean big up too. Bye-bye.